Welcome to Radicards TV on Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Greeno, and Kurt Bench is here joining us for another episode of Radicards Questions. If you're unfamiliar with this format, it's 3 questions. Each question we spend 5 minutes on. We just talk dialogue back and forth with a standard deviation of about 5 minutes just for random miscellaneous dialogue. I time these things, and we're just going to go off of it right now. So let's start. Question number 1. When brands use the same player image for multiple releases over the course of a number of years, does it help or hurt hobby interest?
Okay, so when it's a player from the early 1900s, I know I collected, or did you ever collect that set? It was when they came out with the 206, Topps 206. I think it was like '09 and 10.
I remember that, yeah.
It had a lot of current players and a lot of older players too. There was a lot of recycled images from there, especially once you started looking at Gypsy Queen and Allen and Ginter, a lot of the same images.
Totally.
It's frustrating at first, but then I remembered, and these guys only played in the early 1900s, some even in maybe in even 1800s. The technology really wasn't around or just freely available at the time. So there's only so many images to be had anyway of some of these early great baseball players. Nowadays, it aggravates me more than anything when I see like Topps and Panini reusing pretty much the same images or very, very similar like action photos. I know David Wright collector, for those of you that don't know, and I don't know how many years in a row Panini for their Prism product, it was David Wright. Just they got him in a picture with his follow through, and it looks like the same card. It's not, but it just looks the same. And then, of course, they do reuse a lot of the same images for their base cards and for some of their inserts and things like that. So for me personally, it's very aggravating.
Okay, that's fair. As a player collector, Frank Thomas, I see this pretty routinely over the course of his post career. Since he's retired, I see a lot of the same images being used. Great images, specifically with Panini, because they lack certain licensing. They're unable to use a large batch of images, so they go with things like USA and collegiate photos and things like that. It's a very cool concept. With Topps, they have such an archive of photography that's been used for Frank Thomas's professional career. I don't see any reason why they would only use 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 images for over and over again over the course of several years. But again, some of the images are great, and I like them. Topps Tribute has recycled certain images, and that are found in other Topps releases, and I actually really like that release quite a bit. So I just go with it, and I'm cool with it. Um, I often want to know what other collectors think, and so your feedback is valuable here. Does it bother you? Would it deter you to buy another product that comes out knowing it's using an image that was used, say, the previous 2 or 3 years?
I mean, it hasn't stopped me yet, but
Okay.
when I thumb through my binders, it's like, oh man, that photos. I've seen that in 2010. I saw that in 2012. Like, come on, guys. I know money wise, I don't know the cost and the logistics of everything, but I mean, it they got to be bringing in some kind of money from this contract with MLB, and to be able to send a couple photographers out. I don't know, but once or twice, maybe 3 or 4 times, but not 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Just not. That's just not good.
I can remember a conversation with a collector online some years back. He was sharing a Ted Williams card, but a bunch of different ones that were, they were released in the last 15 years, and they all used the same image. And there were like 10 or 20 cards, like in this whole run. And I thought that was interesting. But again, we're also talking about a different time when, player
Yeah.
photos were taken in the 40s and 50s. And so, uh, nowadays, it would make more sense. I get that it's a process efficiency thing. Like just use last year's photo, whatever. It's quick, it's painless. We can just grab it, throw it in there. We're done. We don't have to think about it. I get that, and I respect it because I'm all about process flow efficiencies. But I also like, as humans, we're attracted to novelty, and we're attracted to variation and difference. Things that are just a variety, and I can appreciate that. So um, I'm okay with seeing the same image, but it would be nice to see some different ones thrown in the mix every now and again. Is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, I'm right there with you.
All right. Excellent, excellent. So, question number 2. Regarding 1992 Bowman Baseball, in what ways did the wardrobe of player photos impact collectability?
Whew. So I think that was one of the first products like that, and I'm sure there was a few photos before then that showed players in their street clothes or whatever, their workout clothes. It probably, I don't know off the top of my head, but I would say it probably wasn't well received. Kind of like, what was that, 2011 Panini, when Panini got back with the baseball stuff, and it just showed them kind of hanging out or in just like their undershirts with their their pants on, their pants uniform on or whatever. It's like, like, I don't know if I like this.
I know that Leaf did a set with the guys playing poker some years back. I want to say around that time, 2011, maybe prior. And interesting,
Yeah.
interesting stuff. But I prefer guys in their uniform and action shots. I do like the artistic side of taking pictures of people that say walked out of church or were just walked out of from like a senior prom or something, much like the we're talking about the 1992 Bowman Baseball, where guys are using they're doing the loop and swoop and tuck with the belts. I think
Yeah.
it's really kind of fun to see that because
Fashion, man.
I honestly think it's nice. It's nice to go back and see that set because it's a staple of what fashion looked like at that time, and I can really appreciate that side of it. You know, it doesn't always have to show players in action shots with uniforms on for me to enjoy it. Perfect example of that is 1991 Studio. Fantastic product, beautiful, beautiful photography, an awesome design, black and white photos, players like almost like intriguing shots of players, artistically done, beautiful set. But 1992 Bowman, I've read it wasn't well received on its release date because
Uh,
the player photos didn't feature them in a lot of times, especially with rookie cards in jerseys. They were like standing in their casual attire. And
I
so
mean, I
it took a while for that to catch on. And when guys like Mariano Rivera really started to take off, and Piazza started, Piazza was doing really well in the 90s, and Delgado has a card in the set. Granted, Piazza and Delgado both are in jerseys, but guys like Manny Ramirez, Chipper Jones, which is not a rookie card by the way, Mariano Rivera, Todd Jones, Troy Percival, these guys are showcased in standard attire. And it's
yeah.
entertaining to see this because again, it's a snapshot of the time. But I think that at that time it was one of those sets that wasn't highly desirable because of this sort of like new thinking in terms of how to position player photos for a professional baseball card.
And it was Bowman, right? So Bowman had only been back for a couple years at this point, and I can appreciate them trying, like you said, a little bit of variety, right? It went away from the traditional card stock, had that white border. Um, I have the Carlos Delgado rookie in a PSA, and it's that shot where he's
Totally.
as a catcher, and he's like he's catching a fly ball or something. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it, but I can see why people may not have liked it back then because a lot of it wasn't baseball per se. It was just guys kind of posing on a locker, or like and you said Mariano Rivera. That card is extremely valuable, especially PSA graded. So um, maybe back, obviously you said back then it wasn't too hot, but nowadays, yeah, I'm sure a lot of those cards are very very valuable.
Yeah, the Mariano Rivera took a while to heat up. I know back when Bowman 92 came out, the three big rookies were Manny Ramirez, Mike Piazza, and Carlos Delgado. And that's how it stayed for a long time.
Yeah,
And then Mariano Rivera's rookie card back then was like less than $1. Now it's the
it took
most
a
expensive
while.
card in the set. I mean, he's arguably one of the greatest closers of all of baseball, and so that helped. And it's just funny. It's like, all right, Mariano, we know you just got out of church. Just stand there next to that wall. We're gonna take a picture of you.
And it's like it took him a while. I mean, he didn't really become a household name, and 6 7 years later. I mean,
Took a
it was a long
while.
time for him.
It took a while. It certainly did. And some of my favorite cards came out of that set in terms of the stylistic appearance. Like I said, the Todd Jones, like his gold chain and the mustache and his facial expression, just a really hilarious card to me. I really enjoy that quite a bit. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, question number 3. Had Chrome technology been acquired by Upper Deck or Score prior to it being attained by Topps, what kind of influence would it have had on the hobby?
Ooh, man, that's a good question. Score or what was the other one?
Upper Deck.
Upper Deck. Um, I still I still think Upper Deck probably would have went out of business. They did have some of the Chrome cards a little bit later on. Score would have been interesting. I think it would have been. I think it would have made a difference for them because they were already into that colorful, you know, colorful sets, right? They had the sets with multiple different color variations
88.
throughout the set, right? And then
88
through
Score.
the years, they would have the orange and the red and different. So I think had the chrome and the refracting technology been around for them, that would have been an interesting look. Score definitely probably would have stuck around for a lot longer. Absolutely.
Well, do you think that having the Chrome technology Score being owned by Pinnacle and Pinnacle having its own flagship brand starting in 92, but they own Score starting in 88. So,
Right.
do you think whether or not they had Chrome would have had made any difference in whether or not they're going to stay in business?
I, I think so because they would have beaten Tops to the punch, right? And a lot of the Chrome technology, right? When '93 Finest came out,
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the most well-regarded sets of all time,
Yeah.
and one of the most valuable sets. Those cards, you go on eBay, dear God, try to get a Nolan Ryan
Oh,
refractor,
that's a big one. Yeah.
and
The
yeah,
Griffey's.
so I mean, yeah, I think it would have helped him absolutely because Pinnacle had that real super glossy. They didn't have the chrome look, but I think for Score, not Pinnacle, because Pinnacle was just that black border look. It's still a good looking card, but I think Score with all the colorful variations they had throughout their different sets, I think it would have helped them quite a bit.
Well, remember that Pinnacle had the Dufex technology. They had the artist proofs, right? They
Yeah,
had they captured a certain audience with a certain type of parallel card that was highly desirable. To me, even to this day, Dufex technology is one of my favorites of all time. And every card, it makes every card look magnificent, regardless of player, and I really, really appreciate that. But had Score or Upper Deck taken the Chrome technology prior to Topps obtaining it, Topps would have had to come up with something else to showcase, say, their prospect sets and their Bowman Chromes, right?
yeah,
Bowman would have not been Bowman Chrome; it would have been something else. I mean,
yeah.
this is the kind of thing I think about. What if Chrome was used by a company that's now out of business or no longer has licensing? Because think about that for a minute. If Score, i.e. Pinnacle, that umbrella brand Score Select Pinnacle, had Chrome, that means that Topps would have had to come up with something else in place of Chrome. Upper Deck would have had to do something else uh,
Right.
outside of both of those things, the Chrome and the if I mean, would Topps taken on a Dufex role? I mean, that's the other thing we're thinking about. Would have Upper Deck came up with a Dufex idea? I mean, these are interesting thoughts to have.
Maybe they would have tasked because remember Topps was doing the Kodak thing, right, with 91 Stadium Club. So maybe they could have come up with something. I'm sure they would have. It's inevitable, right? Because now even Panini Donruss has Optic, which is basically Chrome. Um, yeah, that's an interesting question. Topps absolutely would have come up with something for sure, but
Certainly.
I th- I think Score would have kept them around a lot longer for sure.
Well, that's the hope, right? It's like they already had so much going for them when they were around. Having Chrome would have just been another thing. What would it have been? Would it have been a catalyst to keep them in business? Would it have been the one thing that they needed to stand on to stay in business? Because I can't subscribe to the assumption that having another line of technology will
Well,
maintain longevity over the course of time.
they were already, I mean, and Donruss was in on it too a little bit, but the on-card autographs, right? Because they were doing the um, Pinnacle was doing what the Lou Gehrig and all that kind of was not Lou Gehrig, but Who's the Yankee?
Well, Manta was 91, and then
Mansell,
DiMaggio was the following
imagine,
year.
yeah. So I mean, imagine that on a Chrome card. While those guys were still. I mean, man, that would have been insane.
It would have been interesting. I remember the early years of Chrome on the Marvel cards. You might remember those that were put in like the
Masterpieces. Yeah.
Wizard magazine. And they'd give you these cool. I still have all mine. I think they're fantastic
Marvel,
looking. And that
yeah,
was
Marvel
before they were acquired
masterpieces.
by. That was before
Mhm.
that technology was acquired by a major a licensed sports card manufacturer. And I thought that was cool to go back to it. Great stuff. Thank you for your feedback, Kurt, on these 3 questions. And do you have
No,
any
no,
other final thoughts?
nope. Just happy to be here. Thanks for everybody for watching.
Okay. Thank you for watching another episode of Radicards TV on Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Reno. Thank you again, Kurt, for joining us. And until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this video, please subscribe. Enjoy collecting. Thank you.